Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really zeroing in on something that affects, well, pretty much how you feel every single day.
Hmm.
Those blood sugar highs and lows, you know that feeling, right? That afternoon slump, or suddenly feeling ravenous even though you just ate.
Yeah, that roller coaster is often your blood sugar doing just that.
Exactly. And it's not just about, how you feel right now. Over time, these spikes can seriously up your risk for type 2 diabetes, maybe even heart issues.
And the stats are pretty sobering. The CDC says, what, 38.4 million people in the U.S. have diabetes?
Yeah, staggering. And the kicker, almost a quarter of them have no idea.
That silent progression is really key, isn't it? So many people could be dealing with blood sugar imbalances and not even realize it.
Which is exactly why we wanted to do this, to understand how to manage it before it becomes a bigger problem.
Even if you don't have a diagnosis, yeah, this is relevant stuff.
Totally. So our mission today is basically to sift through all the info out there and pull out the really practical, actionable advice, stuff you can actually use.
Like a shortcut to the key knowledge for keeping things level.
You got it.
Yeah.
A shortcut to feeling better now and protecting your health later on.
And to do that, we looked at a couple of really solid sources.
We did. First, there's a big article from Healthline, super comprehensive. It lays out 12 different tips to prevent blood sugar spikes. Covers diet, lifestyle, the whole shebang.
A really broad look. And then we also dove into a review of The Diabetes Code by Dr. Jason Fung.
Right. His book takes a much more focused dietary angle. He has this core idea about reversing type 2 diabetes by tackling what he sees as the root cause.
So, two different approaches in a way. Healthline gives you this wide toolkit.
And Dr. Fun offers a very specific dietary philosophy, but, both are aiming at the same target, better blood sugar control.
Right. Let's get into it, starting with Healthline's 12 tips.
Let's do it. Tip number 1, go low carb.
Makes sense, right? Carbs break down into sugar glucose in your blood, so less carbs in.
Less sugar spike out. Simple logic.
Pretty much. And studies consistently back this up. Lower carb diets tend to lead to lower blood sugar. It's pretty well documented.
And they often mention weight loss happening too, right? Which seems important.
Very important, because carrying extra weight makes it harder for your body to manage blood sugar effectively. So losing even a bit can make a difference.
Healthline also mentions carb counting specifically. Is that different?
It's a more precise version of low carb, really. For people managing diabetes already, tracking exact carb grams helps match food with medication or insulin. Needs guidance, of course.
Okay. Tip 2 from Healthline. Eat fewer refined carbs.
Yes, the usual suspects: white bread, white rice.
Sugary drinks, candy, a lot of breakfast cereals.
Exactly. The processing strips out the good stuff like fiber, vitamins, and what you're left with hits your bloodstream super fast.
Right.
High glycemic index, they call it.
Right. Causes that rapid flood of sugar.
And doing that consistently, that's linked to a higher risk of type 2 diabetes down the line and weight gain too.
So the alternative is
Whole grains, most fruits, non-starchy veggies, beans, lentils, things with a lower GI. They release sugar much more slowly.
more of a gentle slope than a sharp peak.
Nicely put. Exactly. Keeps your energy more stable.
Okay, third tip. Reduce sugar intake. And the numbers here are just, wow. 17 teaspoons of added sugar a day for the average American.
It's wild when you think about it, and so much is hidden in processed foods, stuff you wouldn't even think is sweet.
Things like sauces, dressings.
Yogurts, yeah. And the thing is, our bodies don't need that added stuff. Sucrose, high fructose corn syrup. They're just empty calories, basically.
And they cause those immediate spikes we're trying to avoid. But there's more to it, right? Insulin resistance.
Yes, crucial point. Think of insulin as the key that lets sugar into your cells for energy.
Okay.
If you keep flooding your body with sugar, the locks on the cell doors get, well, less responsive. They resist the key.
So your body has to make even more insulin to try and force the doors open.
Exactly. And over time, that whole system can break down, leading towards type 2 diabetes. It's good the FDA requires added sugar on labels now. Helps you see it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, tip 4. Reach and maintain a moderate weight. We touched on this, but let's dig in. How does weight affect blood sugar directly?
It comes back to that insulin resistance. Excess weight, especially around the middle, seems to make it harder for insulin to work properly. The exact mechanisms are complex, but the link is strong.
Makes sense.
And that 2020 study they mentioned, losing just 5 to 10% of body weight significantly lowered fasting blood sugar.
So even small changes can have a real impact.
A big impact, yeah. It's quite motivating.
All right, tip 5. Exercise more. Good for everything, obviously, but the blood sugar connection.
Two main things here. First, exercise makes your cells more sensitive to insulin, so the key works better.
Okay. The opposite of resistance.
Exactly. And second, your muscles actually use glucose directly from your blood for fuel when you're active, so it literally clears sugar out of your bloodstream.
Does it matter when you exercise?
Interesting point. One study suggested exercising before breakfast might be slightly more effective for blood sugar control, but really, any activity is good.
And it helps with weight management too, of course.
But the double whammy, win-win.
Number 6, eat more fiber. We hear about fiber for digestion, but it's good for blood sugar too.
Absolutely. Specifically soluble fiber. This type dissolves in water and forms a gel in your gut.
Gel, okay.
Yeah, think of it like it slows down how quickly carbs get digested and absorbed. So instead of a sugar rush, you get a slower, steadier release.
Makes sense. And it helps you feel full.
That too. Which can help with managing how much you eat overall.
And good sources are things like
Oatmeal, nuts, beans, lentils, apples, oranges, blueberries, lots of vegetables. Good stuff.
got it. Tip 7, drink more water. Seems basic, but dehydration affects blood sugar.
It does, surprisingly. When you're dehydrated, your body releases a hormone called vasopressin. That tells your kidneys to hang on to water, but it can also mean hanging on to excess sugar. Plus, dehydration can signal your liver to pump out more sugar.
Wow, okay, so staying hydrated helps flush things out.
Yeah, and prevents those signals. That 2011 study found drinking at least a liter a day lowered the risk of developing high blood sugar by about 21%.
Just water though, right? Not sugary drinks.
Definitely stick to water. Sugary drinks would obviously do the opposite.
Right. Okay, number 8 is interesting. Introduce some vinegar, like apple cider vinegar.
Yeah, there's buzz around vinegar. Some research, like a 2018 review, hints that it might improve insulin response slightly and maybe blunt those post-meal spikes a little.
Ow.
The thinking is it might slow stomach emptying or maybe even lower the GI of the meal itself, but more research is definitely needed. It's not a cure-all, but maybe a small helper.
Worth knowing about. Okay, tip 9. Get enough chromium and magnesium. Minerals, right?
Yep, essential minerals. Chromium seems to help insulin do its job better, getting sugar into cells,
And magnesium.
also linked to blood sugar control. A 2019 study found magnesium supplements improved insulin levels and resistance in overweight people without diabetes.
Interesting. So they both help insulin work better.
Seems that way. And one study even found taking them together worked better than either one alone for insulin sensitivity.
Where do we get them?
Healthline lists good sources: broccoli, eggs, shellfish, nuts for chromium, spinach, almonds, avocados, peanuts for magnesium, whole foods again.
Seeing a pattern here. Tip 10, add some spice. Cinnamon and fenugreek.
Right. Cinnamon. The evidence is a bit mixed, honestly. Some studies show benefits for fasting glucose and insulin in type 2 diabetes.
But others don't find much effect.
Exactly. And there's the difference between cassia cinnamon, the common kind, which has coumarin,
Which you shouldn't have too much of.
right, and Ceylon cinnamon, which is different. Fenugreek seems a bit more consistent. It's packed with soluble fiber.
Like we talked about earlier. Slows digestion.
Studies suggest it can lower blood sugar after meals and even fasting glucose, especially in prediabetes. It does have a strong taste, though.
So maybe supplements for some.
Could be an option, yeah.
11th tip, try berberine. Hearing more about this one too.
Yeah, it's a plant compound used in traditional Chinese medicine for ages, for cholesterol, weight, blood sugar.
And the modern research.
A recent big review in 2023 showed it can help lower fasting glucose, HbA1c,
Wow.
that long-term measure, and after-meal sugar in people with diabetes.
Sounds promising. Any caveats?
Definitely talk to your doctor first, especially if you have other conditions or take other meds. It's potent stuff.
Good advice. Okay, finally, tip 12, lifestyle factors. Stress, sleep, alcohol.
Huge. These often get overlooked but have a direct line to blood sugar. Stress triggers hormones that raise blood sugar, that old fight-or-flight response.
So managing stress helps manage sugar.
Absolutely. And sleep. Both too little and too much are linked to poor blood sugar control. Lack of sleep can increase insulin resistance, mess with appetite hormones.
If you crave carbs and sugar.
Yep.
Makes weight loss harder too. All connected.
And alcohol.
Well, many drinks, especially mixers, are loaded with sugar. Instant spike. Plus, alcohol itself is often empty calories and can mess with your liver's sugar regulation, potentially increasing risks.
Wow. Okay, that's a really thorough list from Healthline. Covers a lot of ground.
It really does. A very holistic view.
Now let's switch to the diabetes code. Dr. Feng's approach. His big idea is reversing type 2 diabetes by tackling too much sugar.
Yeah, that's his core thesis. It's maybe a simplification. Type 2 is complex, but his argument centers on chronically high insulin, driven mainly by sugar and refined carbs, as the root problem.
And he's not big on just using drugs, right? He pushes nutrition first.
Very much so. He's quite critical of approaches that rely mainly on meds without, in his view, addressing the underlying dietary cause. He argues nutrition should be the primary intervention.
So what's his code? What are the rules?
3 main things. 1, avoid fructose. 2, avoid refined carbs but increase natural fats. 3, eat only unprocessed foods.
And a big fourth element, intermittent fasting.
That sounds restrictive. What does it cut out?
A lot. No sugary drinks, obviously. No cookies, cakes, ice cream, but also most fruit. Dried fruit, bread, pasta, rice, potatoes.
Wow, that's a major overhaul for most people.
It really is. Very tough to stick with long-term for many. Though some might find the super clear rules easier to follow, at least initially, than ambiguity.
The review mentions some people report good results, anecdotally, but sustainability is a big question mark.
Exactly. Personal stories are powerful, but whether you can maintain such a strict plan long-term is key. And there's no shame if it's too hard. Always best to try something like this with medical guidance.
Good point. The book apparently has a 2-week plan to get started.
Yeah, meal plans, fasting schedules, recipes. Also on dietdoctor.com gives a concrete starting point if someone's exploring it.
And the review frames it as, well, a challenge to conventional thinking, something to consider with your doctor, especially if you're at risk or have type 2.
Right. It's another perspective, another potential tool in the toolbox, but needs careful consideration and professional input.
Okay, let's connect the dots. Healthline's broad tips and Feng's focused diet. Where's the common ground?
The big one is definitely cutting way back on refined carbs and added sugars. Both sources point a huge finger at those.
No question there.
Absolutely none. That's central to both approaches.
But Healthline goes way beyond just food, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. Exercise, sleep, stress, hydration. Those are huge components in the Healthline advice. Plus the specific foods and supplements, vinegar, spices, minerals, berberine. It's a much wider net.
Whereas the diabetes code is really laser-focused on that specific diet framework, plus fasting.
Pretty much. Diet and fasting are the pillars there.
So wrapping this all up, the main message seems to be that managing blood sugar isn't just one magic trick. It's a combo deal.
Totally. It's about the food choices, whole foods, fiber, protein, healthy fats, less refined stuff, less sugar. But it's also critically about lifestyle, moving your body, sleeping well, managing stress, drinking water.
And maybe some specific extras like spices or supplements, but always carefully and with advice.
Always with advice, yeah. They're potential helpers, not the main event.
It really drives home how being proactive about blood sugar isn't just for preventing future problems like diabetes.
Right.
It's about how you feel today. Your energy, your focus, your mood.
Absolutely. Leveling out those spikes and crashes can make a massive difference in your day-to-day quality of life. Fewer energy slumps, more stable mood, maybe even better appetite control.
So thinking about everything we've covered,
Yeah.
here's something for you, the listener, to chew on. Was one small change, just one thing, that you could realistically start today that might nudge your blood sugar and energy in the right direction?
Maybe it's swapping white bread for whole grain, or adding a walk after dinner, or focusing on getting more water.
Or maybe looking at your sleep or stress levels.
Yeah.
Just pick one thing that resonated from our chat today, something that feels doable for you.
Yeah, what feels like the best starting point for your life right now. Give that some thought.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.